Hey there, welcome back to Farmcraft. This is my Johnson. It's a 5 horsepower TN28 built in 1952, purchased brand new by my grandfather. The last several videos I've been doing an overhaul on it. Got it running, found it was only running on one cylinder, got that fixed, replaced the water pump, replaced some seals that were leaking, a lot of gaskets. We're at the point now where the only thing I have left to do, if anything, is the power head. I'm getting pretty low compression on this, and I've gotten a lot of comments about that, about how I'm checking compression, and I find this all much more enjoyable when I really understand what's going on, and I think you guys will too. So I want to go through and really explain what's going on when you're checking the compression, how this 2-stroke engine works, how that differs from a 4-stroke, and things to consider, like what's going to cause low compression in an engine like this. Another comment that I've gotten several times is that the throttle needs to be wide open when you check the compression. That is a fair comment, but it depends on the engine, and I think that's going to be much more applicable to a 4-stroke engine. This being a 2-stroke, and we're going to go through this, the exhaust can actually act as an intake on this engine, and I'm going to show you all that, and we're going to show you why. All right, we're going to review a 4-stroke engine real quick. 4-strokes are simpler. Every move of the piston does one function, and it's a lot easier to understand. On 2-strokes, things are happening simultaneously, so it's good to go through this first. This also is going to explain why the throttle position does not matter on my engine. Now on a 4-stroke, I believe the throttle position would matter, so those people commenting that it needs to be wide open would be correct if this was a 4-stroke. So I'm sure most of you guys all know this. On your intake stroke, the piston starts at the top, the intake valve opens. You know, this is run by the camshaft, so this is timed to happen at a certain point in the cycle. As that piston starts going down, it's like a syringe drawing something into the cylinder. The intake valve is open and gases from the carburetor are drawn into the cylinder. Then when it reaches the bottom, that intake valve closes. So at that point, now you've got both valves closed and you have trapped gases in the cylinder. It continues to rotate, the piston is coming up and it's compressing the gases. That's fuel and oxygen mixed together. When they get to a high compression state and then are lit, you get a very good explosion, which is where all your power comes from. This compression is absolutely necessary for any engine to run. So when it gets to the top dead center, the spark plug is going to fire. This doesn't really show it accurately. The piston would be up here when this fires. The gases ignite, both valves are closed, the expanding gases have nowhere to go and drive the piston down, and that gives you your power. When the piston gets to the bottom, there's no more power to be derived from the pressure in the cylinder. The exhaust valve opens, it relieves all that pressure, and the piston can coast back up and at the same time evacuate all the exhaust gases. Now the piston's at the top and it's ready for the intake stroke. Now let me point out on this, if your throttle was closed, so picture out here is your carburetor, and the throttle would be basically blocking that off if it's closed. It wouldn't be allowing free flow of gas into the intake. Then when you're trying to do your intake, you'd have a negative pressure here. It's sucking, trying to get gases in, but they're not free to flow. So you're not getting enough volume of gas into the cylinder. Then when you try to do your compression, you're not going to get full compression because you didn't have enough in here to compress. So that's going to give you a low pressure reading on this engine. Now let's look at the 2-stroke. So this is actually the owner's manual for my Johnson engine. You might say this is the owner's manual for my Johnson. It just never ends. Sorry. So, okay, this is the intake portion. Now, one thing to understand here with a 2-stroke, your crankcase, this is the area that on a 4-stroke, it is full of oil, and an oil pump distributes oil all over everything. So, this is the crankshaft, this is the connecting rod, this is the connecting rod bearing, this is the wrist pin, and there's a bearing there against the piston. Well, all these things are lubricated by the oil reservoir. Well, a 2-stroke does not have an oil reservoir. The only way to lubricate something is with the fuel. So here's where things get kind of goofy on a 2-stroke. The fuel mixture does not go from the carburetor into the cylinder. It actually goes into the crankcase first. It seems a little unusual. This is one of those things that makes 2-strokes a little harder to understand than a 4-stroke, but all 2-strokes do this. These things have to be lubricated, and the only way they're going to get lubricated is with the fuel. So the intake of a 2-stroke is when the piston is going up. So when this piston is going up, it's making a negative pressure in the crankcase. And when the piston gets past this valve here, the carburetor gases go through this opening, which, you know, I call it a valve. There probably is a reed valve here, which is essentially a check valve, a one-way valve. It'll allow things to go in, but they won't come back out. But a lot of the valves on a two-stroke are actually actuated by the piston itself, so that when the piston gets past this opening, now the opening is free to flow. There's a negative pressure in here, so it sucks in the gases from the carburetor into the crankcase. The purpose of that is to lubricate everything in here. So that's the intake. This is going up. I'm going to go through the 4 strokes, but these things are happening simultaneously. So the cylinder is now coming back down. It causes compression in the crankcase. The intake valve is closed, and this builds up pressure. So once the piston gets down below this opening here, this is called the bypass. It allows this positive pressure here to be injected into the cylinder. So that's how the fuel gets from the crankcase into the cylinder. So now we've got our fuel in the cylinder. The piston goes up and it compresses it, just like in a 4-stroke. Once the piston gets past this hole and this hole, which we're going to look at in a minute, it's trapped. There's just nowhere for it to go. So that's your compression stage. Well, then the spark plug fires. This explodes. The gases expand. It drives the piston down. This is the exhaust valve, we'll call it, but it's really just an opening, and that valve opens when the piston travels down far enough to open it. That opens first before the bypass does. So the piston comes down and this one opens first. The high pressure in the chamber is evacuated rapidly through the exhaust port. Then the piston goes down just a hair further and this opens, which allows this positive pressure. Now this is at atmospheric pressure because there's nothing in between here, and this is just going to the exhaust tube down into the lower unit and into the water. The positive pressure here now drives the gases up into the cylinder. Now this is important. This little step on the piston makes those gases, rather than coming straight across and trying to go out the exhaust, it forces them up, which causes a swirl and makes the gases evacuate the rest of the exhaust as the intake is coming in. And this is all built into the engine. A properly built engine, there will be almost no exhaust gases left, and there will just be fuel, and hopefully not much fuel actually went out the exhaust before it had a chance to be used. And then the piston is coasting back up, and once it gets up above the intake, the gases stop coming in, and then up above the exhaust, it's cut off. Now we're trapped again, and we do the compression. So all 4 things happen in 2 strokes. That's why they call it a 2-stroke, of course. But things are happening simultaneously. As the piston is going up, the intake into the crankcase is occurring, and the compression is occurring at the same time. So there's essentially 2 intake strokes on this 2-stroke. Intake into the crankcase, and then later we have intake into the cylinder. Then at top dead center, the spark fires and the piston is driven down. So there's your power stroke. At the end of the power stroke, these ports are opened up, and you simultaneously, well, near simultaneously, you get exhaust, and then shortly after you get intake, all in the same stroke. So within the power stroke, you have the exhaust stroke and you have the intake, all happening at once. Pretty amazing, and a little harder to understand. And now you can see why a 2-stroke has a high power to weight ratio. On every upward move of the piston is a compression stroke, every downward move is a power stroke. So the cylinder is firing twice as frequently as it would on a 4-stroke at the same RPM. Now, why do I not need the throttle open to check the compression? Well, this exhaust is open to atmosphere. There is nothing stopping flow here in either direction. So when the piston is all the way down, even if my intake was closed off and there wasn't much gas in the crankcase, any gas that needs to enter, this exhaust port is going to allow it to fill. So no matter what position the throttle is in, you're going to get all the gas you need in the cylinder. So why might my engine have low compression? Well, this up here would be the head. There's a gasket here. I wish they had shown this a little better. The spark plug is actually on top here, and there's a gasket right there. And if that gasket is leaking, you can see as you're trying to compress these gases, as you're trying to compress, they could potentially leak out. They could also leak between the cylinders. Picture there's a second cylinder over here. the gases could go back and forth without actually leaking externally. So those are possibilities that would mess up your compression. The other is the state of the bore and the state of the rings. They need to be well sealed, otherwise you're going to leak your compression down into the crankcase, whether it's past a scratched bore or just worn out rings. I have checked the compression on this both hot and cold. In other words, get the engine up to running temperature, check the compression, or check it like right now, the thing's cold, it hasn't run in days. And I get the same answer. Now, I've had someone say you should check the compression while it's cold. I don't really understand that. Why would you do that? Because your engine's only cold until it warms up. It's how it runs once it's warm is what's really important to me. That's what's going to determine its functionality. So I would think if you have maybe shoddy compression when it's cold, but good compression when it's warm, then you're fine. If you have good compression when it's cold and bad compression when it's warm, that's a problem because the engine's not going to work for you when you're out in the middle of a lake. Unless someone can comment and give a good reason why checking the compression cold is the answer, for me, the proper way to do it is when it's warm. In this engine, I'm getting the exact same number no matter how I do it. Let's do some experiments on checking this compression. First, the throttle. So I've turned the throttle all the way off. And we're spinning with a drill, and let's see what we get. All right, so that is 66. 66. Now that's with the throttle closed. The throttle is wide open. Let's see what we get. Exact same. So that made no difference, and that doesn't surprise me because of the exhaust. So another comment that I thought was a fair comment is that this hose is so long, it is basically making dead space, that the piston has to cause compression to occur all the way through this hose in order to build pressure. So if this space is too large, even if you have perfect compression here on the cylinder, having to compress all this additional area or volume is going to give you a low reading. I thought, that's a fair point. That may be the case. Now, one thing I find is when you look down this hose, it's a very narrow orifice in there. It's not like there's a 1/4 inch of space in here that is being filled up. It's pretty small inside this hose. But what I did is just took that hose off of there, and we'll use this little short piece. So this is like significantly less space. Yeah, there's like 3 of these. So let's see if that makes any difference. Maybe 67. It maybe made a slight difference, but not much. All right, I'm putting this long hose back on because it has the compression release so that I can slowly let the pressure down instead of having the gauge slam to 0 when I undo that. I think letting it slam is probably not going to be good for the gauge. Just one person made this comment, and I found this was really an interesting one. There's a possibility that I'm getting a leak between the cylinders. In other words, from the head gasket, gases are getting from one cylinder into the other cylinder. I think the reason he thought that is because the cylinders were getting the same reading. I don't know, I'm not sure that makes so much sense because I don't have a plug in the other cylinder. If there's a leak from this cylinder through the head gasket into the other cylinder, it's basically a leak to atmosphere. And I would think my compression would be really bad. So let me run the compression real quick like it is. 66. Now, see, I can let the pressure out like that. Now I am going to try something. I'm going to put a plug in the other cylinder so that, even though it has an exhaust port and everything, at least this way, if it is leaking into the other cylinder, it's not a leak straight to atmosphere. It's a leak into another somewhat enclosed chamber depending on where it is in the cycle. So there, that's in. Now let's see what we get. 67. I think it did change just a little bit. Slightly better. So now, let's do the same thing but on the other cylinder. Let's do it without the plug first, just so we can see any difference. All right, here we go. And I would call that one 67. And now let's put a plug in. Well, I'd have to say that one's 69. And, you know, I can't be the one making all the Johnson jokes. You guys just make it in your head. We're going to let that one go. Okay, so, you know, that's kind of interesting. Having the plug in or not is changing my reading a little bit. And that does tend to make me think that there might be somewhat of a leak in the head gasket between the cylinders. So that's interesting and certainly worth exploring. So one other thing I want to cover, when I first checked compression on this engine, I did exactly like this. I did not have a plug in the other cylinder, and I got different readings. What I realized when I went back and looked at the footage, it's because I had my drill on high. So, you know, I've been getting 66, 67, 68 on this, but if I put the drill on high, let's see what we get. 76. And that's just because it's turning over faster, so it's able to build a higher pressure. That does tend to make me think that it's leaking, because the speed with which that piston is rising is making a significant difference in my reading. It's like there's a bleed off if I go a little slower. So let's see what it is on the other cylinder. 72.3, something like that. Any piston cylinder setup is going to leak. There's little gaps in those rings. You know, if you very slowly rise the piston up, you're not going to get any compression at all. The speed that it's coming up matters. The fact that I'm getting over 70 when I put the drill on high, is that cheating, or is that a reasonable way to check compression? I think it might be reasonable, but I'm not sure. Definitely let me know what you guys think. I wanted to point out that the valves on a 4-stroke are potential losses of compression. You can see if these valves are not functioning, they're leaking, they're not timed correctly, you're not going to get compression. But if we go back to our 2-stroke, the valves are really just openings, and their function is dictated by the piston rings. So that's not an issue with this engine. So what am I going to do here? A lot of people commented that they did not want to see a full restoration of this. In other words, sandblasting everything down, fixing the dents, getting it all back to showroom quality. Because it's an old engine and it has a patina, and if you ruin all that, you've lost something. And I tend to agree. I like the fact that it's old, obviously old. What I've decided is I'm just going to try to overhaul it as best I can, get it running as best I can, but other than that, I'm not gonna change it. My concern with doing the power head rebuild is parts. You know, this is a 1952 Johnson TN28, and if you search for rings or connecting rod bearings or crankshaft bearings, reed valves, they are few, if any, parts available that I'm finding. So if anybody knows a good supplier, a place where I'm going to be able to get these, or, you know, at least the specifications so that I know, is this something that I'm going to be able to make before I tear into this thing, that would be nice to know. What I don't want to do is tear this thing down and get myself in a position where now I absolutely have to have the parts in order to get it running again, and I can't get the parts. Well, then I've just ruin the engine, essentially. I don't want to do that. But my curiosity, I'd really like to get into this thing. I'd like to see, I could do a head gasket. I mean, I can pull the head and do that. And I'll do that at the very least. But I'd like to see, is there a leak in the head gasket between the cylinders that we can actually identify? How do the reed valves look? How does the bores and rings look? I'm going to do further, but to do a full teardown, I really need to get some more information, and it's hard to find out there. One other comment several people made, there's a lot of fans out there of Marvel Mystery Oil. I'm going to go ahead and try it, you know. I've got poor compression now, and I've already put 2-stroke oil in here. I've let it sit. I've run it quite a lot, and my compression has not improved at all. So everyone seems to think Marvel Mystery Oil is the cure-all. So I'm going to get some. I'm going to put it in the cylinders. I'm going to tip it back like this, let it sink in, and keep filling it, and do that daily for a while. And there'll be a cool experiment. Let's see if it really makes any difference here. I'm skeptical that it will, but until you test it, you just don't know. You'll definitely be seeing more of this engine. I don't know yet if it's going to be a full teardown or not. I would like for it to be, but I don't want to ruin it. I hope you found this video interesting. I really find it enjoyable to really know how things work on the inside and out, down to all the details, and I hope you find it enjoyable too. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.